Right, so one more form question, and whereas the other question was about code for a form, this one is about the wireframe for a form. And quite often you'll see that in the same paper. You maybe have a couple of web questions that reference forms, but one of them will be about drawing the wireframe, and one of them will be about the code. So we've got Pranav is running an escape room company that uses a website to promote different themed escape rooms. Part of the information is shown below. The image is too close to the top left of the section element. So this image is right up against the edge of the section that it's in. The way it should be is below. The gaps to the above and left of the image are 10 pixels, the gap to the right is 20. So what we're looking for is to put in these margins. Now, I know that these are margins because they're extended outwards from the image. If they were padding, they would be pushing in from the image. It could have been like padding on the section, but then if you look at that, although they actually accepted that marking scheme, I don't think it could have been because it doesn't actually line up. So in any case, it's a margin. So I've written on here the word margin, but I've got different margins on different sides of it. So we've got what margin top is 10. We've got margin left is 10, and margin right is 20. And that's a kind of nice and easy question. The main point of this question is that there's then a big 4-mark wireframe for a form. Now, see right at the bottom of it, I've already put a button. And remember when I was saying about software development, you don't have to use this big box starting at the top, right at the top corner and going right to the bottom. You know it needs a submit button because forms always require a submit button. So, to be honest, after I've read what the question is about, I would just put the button in first. So he wants to add a new web page with a form where customers can contact the company to inquire about bookings. Customers are required to enter a contact name, email address, date of booking, and the party size. So I'm going to underline these because these are the things that I need some sort of inputs for. And you notice that it says required to enter these. Kind of subtle, but there's going to be validation on that. Customers will have to choose a theme. And then that's from these, right? So we've got some options that they can choose from. They can also provide, so they can provide additional information. In other words, they're not required to. That means that some of these things are going to have validation and some of them aren't. If I start off and I've got their name and then a box where they're going to enter the name, and their email is a similar thing. Box where they're going to enter their email. I'm going to zoom in a bit for the sake of making my handwriting a bit smaller. We've got the date and the party size. So date. Now you don't actually implement these in the course spec, but you're probably going to do it like that, right? To make it a date input, and you can put there date, and these are text. Just make things nice and clear. Now these are all required. So different ways you could do it. You could write the word required. You could put a star on it. And that's quite often what you'll see. You'll see a little red star. The star itself doesn't have any special meaning, but you just put in there that means required. And it saves you writing it every time. We've also got party size. Now party size is going to be a number. So that's a numeric one, and you could show it like that. Okay, where you've got the little menus up and down, right? And the number is going to go in there. And that's a number with a maximum of 6. So we've got some validation on that as well. And that is also required. Customers will have to choose the theme from Amazon Escape, Mine Mayhem, or Aztec Anarchy. So different ways you could do it. You could do it as like a kind of drop down menu where they choose one. You could do it as radio buttons. And either one would be fine. The whole point is it's an option that they're choosing from. It's not that they're like typing in a free text field. So if I say theme, now let's say I do it as a drop down menu. So it's Aztec something, and for the sake of handwriting, I'm just going to put Aztec, Mayan, and oh, I missed the first one was Amazon. Right. But obviously, because I'm doing this on a tablet screen, it's not quite as easy to fit things in. And then you're going to have a text area for additional comments or additional info. If you look at the description, it says they can also provide additional information, so that one is not required. Now it says up here that they have to choose a theme. It's not actually specifically in the marking scheme as needing a mark for that for validation, but that would be select. Okay, so the last bit here, we've got a couple of short questions about the wireframe and about navigation. So I've already filled in an answer here for the developer benefit. A developer benefit and a client benefit for using a low fidelity prototype. Now, it's true to say that when you create a low fidelity prototype, it's a way of getting feedback from your client. The thing is, why would you do that rather than just implementing it? And then you could show them the finished website. Well, it's going to be a lot cheaper and quicker and easier just to draw the thing on paper and show them that and say, is that what you're looking for? And that's going to take you a lot less time, which is going to cost you a lot less money. So changes based on feedback without the expense of implementing the whole website first. So that's important. And then the benefit to the client, well, if you're paying somebody to develop a website for you, you want to be able to give feedback that, yeah, that meets your requirements. So feedback that it meets all of their requirements. Navigation bar for the website is shown below. So we've got this horizontal navigation bar. Interesting to note that it's got bullet points in it. This version uses code below, so we've got nav ULLI, nav ULLIA. So these are all what we call the descendant selectors, meaning this one affects nav, this one affects UL inside the nav, this or LI inside the UL inside the nav. This affects links inside list items, inside unordered lists, inside the nav. So complete the CSS rule to remove the bullet points from the navigation bar. Well, it's already got the selector in for us, so that's quite nice. It's already scaffolded. And this was something that in the prelim quite a lot of people didn't get. List, style, type, none. Right, it's not display none, it's nothing to do with float. It's something that you only use for bullet points, and it's the only time you're ever going to see it. List style type is when you're using it to get rid of the bullet points. You're not going to be able to wing that and just guess that in the exam and pluck that out there, so you need to know that. And then explain why the unordered list in the navigation bar will display differently from any other unordered list in the website. Now, this is 2 marks. It's maybe not all that clear where the 2 are coming from. It's actually not that complicated a point to make. So don't think you're having to come up with 2 completely different unrelated points here. Because we've got the descendant selector, so like that's A inside LI, inside UL, inside nav. Code that applies to UL nav means it's a descendant selector. It means that it only applies to UL inside the nav, doesn't apply to UL elsewhere on the page. So it's actually a relatively easy question, and you're getting a mark for identifying that that's a descendant selector, and then for explaining what that means.